What's going down, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Holmes Hobbies Motor Control. It's your boy Josh, aka Coleman, and we're chilling in the office today. We're gonna do things a little bit different. We've been doing lots of build videos, stuff on the workbench. We've been doing lots of unboxings, and we've even done a decent amount of trail videos and things of that nature, driving videos. Not enough, but it's been really cold outside, so as it warms up, we will start to do more and more of those videos where we go out and do adventures, have fun with these trucks and these products, because it is freezing outside right now. So I don't know, maybe another month or so and we'll start getting more and more into the outside activities. But basically what I wanted to do and what I started doing is going back through old videos and seeing what people ask, and going through comments on Facebook and Instagram and just seeing what people are generally interested in, what they want and what they want to know. And a lot of it goes back to the original stuff we talked about on this series, and we're like 100 something episodes deep, which is pretty amazing. So that many episodes, people can get lost in them. It's hard to find things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to retouch on a lot of these things, expand on them, really go in depth on some of those things, hopefully. I'm not sure when, but it's going to be hit and miss here and there, because I don't like to be repetitive for too long, do the same thing over and over. So we're going to start off simple, though, and we're going to go back to some of the basic things that people are wanting to know. There's a lot of people getting into this hobby every day, and I forget that. I think that, I do a video and, okay, my audience has seen it and that's it, they've seen it. But then, 6 months later, we've got, however many thousand more subscribers and thousands more views, and we have thousands and thousands more people coming into the hobby. I'm realizing, well, they're actually not that effective if I just do them once. I need to do them basically on an annual basis. So I'm going to come up with a way to touch on these things annually. That way it's easier for people to find things, easier for people to go in depth on stuff, and you guys get the idea. You're not stupid, you know what I'm talking about. So from that point, basically what I want to say is thank you guys for supporting me this long in the series, and we're gonna dive back to some of the basics now. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is, this is something that's very important to keep in mind as we go throughout this series. What I say is not law. It's not fact. This is all a matter of perception. It's all a matter of what you desire personally. So RCs are toys, they're models. Yes, some of them are model grade, some of them are hobby grade, some of them are toy grade, but they're all toys nonetheless. They're all toys, and how you build them is all just a matter of preference. So for me personally, I'm going to be using the series to talk about how I build my stuff, and also touch on a little bit of how other people build their things. So to start off with, we're going to use the Axial SCX10 as an example. A lot of people like to buy Axial SCX10s, and I personally work close with Axial, so it's just it's a no-brainer for me to use that as an example. When you buy an Axial SCX10, sorry about the dog barking in the background. When you buy an Axial SCX10 in factory kit form, or RTR form or whatever, they're very lightweight. They're very lightweight. I'm guessing like 4 pounds or something like that, if I remember right. And they aren't the most realistic RC in the market, right? And I don't buy them because they're the most realistic RC in the market. I buy them because I feel they are the platform with the most potential in the market. So for instance, if I wanted the most realistic, I would just buy an RC four-wheel drive truck. They're the most realistic right out of the box, right? TF2s, for instance, or RC Model X builds are very realistic right out of the box. But the thing is, for me, I like to build my trucks. I'm not into buying it and then just changing the paint schemes, the wheels, the tires, things like that. I like to go in depth on those builds and make them more mine. And that doesn't mean that, buying them is wrong or is bad or any less whatever, desirable. It's just a matter of preference, like I said. So when I buy an Axial SCX10, I buy it for the platform because I know how reliable I can build it to be. So the parts that are available, right, and my knowledge of the platform allow me to build it to a level that I feel is borderline indestructible, right? So when I do that, I can enjoy the product much more. I don't have to stress so much over having to break it and being on a tight budget and having to buy parts, or I don't have the parts on hand and I break it and then I can't finish the event or the competition or the trail run or whatever, and then I got to watch and then it's no fun and it puts a bad taste in your mouth. It ruins the experience, right? So the fun is in driving it, right, and building it. So at least for me, right? So when I get an Axial SCX10, I keep looking over here because I have one sitting right here. The first thing I want to do is make it more realistic. So as I make it more realistic, hard body, different wheels and tires, you know, a lot more metal added to it, metal links, things of that nature, right? I start building it to be realistic, and we're going back to before I really understood the tuning aspect of it the way I do now. I would make it look realistic, and as I make it look more realistic, the performance level goes down. Okay, so you're not able to climb as steep of an incline. You're not able to side hill on as steep of a side hill, right? You can't speed and turn as easily without it rolling over. There's just so many more things that come into it. And that's when my wheels started turning and I started building differently. So not as in I started trying to make them lighter, I started thinking about the weight differently. I don't want to sacrifice the realism, but I don't want to not have performance. So therefore, the way I look at it is the reason that performance goes down is due to an increase in sprung weight, okay? And as that sprung weight is increased, that unsprung weight becomes a lot less effective. So if you turn, then everything under the chassis, everything that's not sitting on top of those shocks, basically just becomes subject to whatever the sprung weight is doing. So if you turn fast and that sprung weight leans over, it's going to pull that unsprung weight with it, and thus the whole thing's going to fall over, right? If you're on a side hill and the sprung weight goes over, the unsprung weight's going to follow it, right? So as I thought of it more and more like that, there's one of two ways to go about this. You can either A, reduce the sprung weight, which is what most people do, which is why a lot of people still run Lexan bodies. They're a lot lighter, okay? That's why they don't run full three-dimensional interiors in a lot of trucks, especially comp trucks, because it's lighter to do it otherwise, right? Sometimes it's better to sacrifice your scale points to get more performance out of it, right? When it comes to Sorka or things of that nature. Now, this doesn't apply to everybody, but, you know, generally speaking. So, my thought process was different. I wanted to go the other way, which was to increase my unsprung weight. Okay, so if I increased my sprung weight so much that it was pulling, you know, this over, it was counterproductive basically, and eliminating any performance I had, then I needed to add more here. I needed to double up on my unsprung weight. I hope you guys are following me. I'm all over the place here. But I double up on my unsprung weight. So if there's more in the axles and the wheels and the tires and everything down low than there is up top, then it should bring that performance level back, so to speak, theoretically, right? And that's what I thought. And then as I started doing that, I realized the vehicle starts to behave differently. The shocks are no longer as effective. The shocks are now bottoming out. You know, you have a lot more, the spring rates aren't as effective as before. The tires aren't as effective. You know, you're getting more grip, but you're also getting more wrinkle and tire rolls. You know, the foams are failing. A lot of other things started to happen. So then I started having to learn how to tune for that excessive weight. So more foams, thicker foams, different types of foams, just playing around with things until I found what worked for me. And generally speaking, having a nice, tight, thick foam in the back where it's basically replicating aired up rear tires, and having the front tires slightly softer with a little bit more give, a little bit more grab, but not too much. They still need to have good, strong sidewall. That tended to be more effective for me, okay? Now, that's not always the case, and because of the excess weight in the front, usually for me, putting my batteries in the front in a lot of my builds at the time, I had to still put more foam in the front than what I thought I would have to, and sometimes more than what I put in the rear. even though it would be more squishy looking in the front. So there was a lot that went into that. Now, this is where it comes to Holmes Hobbies, okay? A lot of you guys are probably wondering, what does this have to do with Holmes Hobbies and you know, all of that stuff. So Holmes Hobbies has always had this motto of gear down, volt up, right? And I used to be, not to promote another brand, but they're no longer in existence. I used to be a Novak guy back in the day, and a lot of you guys know that now that have followed me for some amount of time. I used to be sponsored by Novak, and I met John while I was still sponsored by Novak, and we didn't develop our relationship until Novak was almost done. And we decided to pull a trigger on it, and I jumped ship and went over to Holmes Hobbies. And when I did that, a major part of me doing that was John's theory about gear down, volt up, because that is what I was doing with my builds at the time, but I was doing it with different products. Novak products, Traxxas products, all these other products, Tekin and everything else, and it just wasn't working. Nothing was holding up to the excess weight, the excess strain, having to gear them down because it was creating excess heat. I was killing off electronics. I still have the box of electronics that I went through. I call it my learner box, basically. I went through all these electronics, motors, everything, trying to learn how to properly tune it for all this weight. Because I went from that factory 4 pounds to now 14, 15, 16 pounds, you know, getting way up there. The chassis, nothing was designed for that. So things were flexing and everything. So what I started doing was going to higher voltage. 3S was all I could do with all these other ones at the time. And John's stuff could do, you know, up to 6S. And I was like, it's just mental. 6S, okay. And some of my buddies had his stuff, and I drove them, and they were so smooth that I just had to do it. I was like, okay, the power's there, the startup is there, they're smooth, they have lots of torque, and that's in normal form. If I gear them down even more how I do it, and then I volt up, then I feel like this could be a winner. So what I did was I started doing that, and I quickly found that I could still run through the brushes pretty quickly on a brushed motor in doing this, just because the extra strain, the extra weight, everything that's going on. Plus I'm abusive. I put them through mud and a lot of other things that just kill brushed motors fairly quick. So not wanting to tune or rebuild motors on a consistent basis, I went to the brushless, and that's when I realized, wow, I could go for a higher KV, get that extra wheel speed, but have it geared extra low, and I can drop down to even a lower geared gear reduction unit, because at the time I was running a HPI 7.4 to 1 gear reduction unit. And so I dropped it down even further, went to the Team Raffi from Asia Tees. I got their 10 to 1 unit, which was beefier, it was more heavy duty, and it was basically a planetary, you know. So I went for that, and then I upped it from like, I was running like a 21 turn to 35 turn brushed motors. I went to a 2200, no, I went to, where did I go to right off the bat? I think I went to 3600 or 3300 kV Puller Pro. I went way up there right off the bat. And I think it was 35 or 3600 kV. It was something way up there. I went way, I forget which Puller Pro it was, but the highest one I could get at the time, basically, that was still in 540 form. And it was so fast. And then I went for the stubby version of it, and it was still really fast, but it was just slightly smaller, so I was able to get it into a tighter build, you know. But then I didn't even notice the difference between the stubby and the full size because of the gear reduction. So it worked great. And then I went to the 2200 kV. Then I went down to an 1800 kV, and it was the Revolver series. Then I went to, no, it was the 1300 kV, I believe, Revolver, 1350. Super, super slow, way too slow, but very realistic. But I couldn't take it on a, you know, Recon G6 or anything of that nature because it was too slow. So then I jumped back up to the 3300 kV, right? And that is when I finally installed the 10 to 1. I wasn't in the 10 to 1 at that time. I installed the 10 to 1 when I went back to a 3300 kV is when it happened. And that combination of 3300 and 3300 kV 10 to 1 unit and 3S to 4S battery pack put me right in my sweet spot where I could crawl as slow as I enjoyed it. It's just realistically slow, one lug at a time. And I could also go slightly faster than walking speed so that I could enjoy a nice long trail run with the buddies or a Recon G6 or something of that nature, right? And so that's where it came into play. And that's only on 4S. Going up to 6S would make it even faster. Then I could drop down in kV and, you know, reduce my temperature even more. And so there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. And this is why I got to the point to where I'm at now. A lot of people never really understood why I like to build my truck so heavy. A lot of people just think I just do it just because I can, or to be different or whatever, but there is a way to get performance back out of a heavy rig, and this is how I do it. Build it up to look the way you want first. Okay, just get it there, get it the way you want it to look, as realistic as you physically can. Then, at that point, you're going to drive it. You're going to realize it does not perform very good at all. Unless you're lucky, or maybe you're really smart and you took the steps in advance to make the performance relevant. But once you finish getting it built to look how you like it, once you finish getting it built to look how you like, right, as realistic as possible, right, full 3D-dimensional, maybe opening doors and hood and engine bay, stereo, all that stuff, driving figures and, you know, moving steering wheel and all the things that are fun, your winches and all your stuff, right, then focus on building down low. Get everything down low heavy, okay? And if you can't afford to buy heavy things like brass knuckles and all that stuff, because some of it is fairly expensive, then do what I did originally. Like my yellow Jeep is a great example of that. I went down to the fishing store. Shout out to Jared Berg. He gave me the idea. I used to use the stick-on weights, you know, that you buy, the square ones that come in packs and stuff. You guys all are familiar with those, I'm sure. And you stick them on. Well, after a while, they break off, and you can glue them on and tape them on and do all these other things, but it's kind of lumpy, and it's hard to get them balanced right. Jared turned me on to the solid lead rod, basically, and it's bendable, a solid lead rope. I don't know what you call it, lead wire, lead whatever, and basically it comes in rolls, and you can roll it off and wrap it around your wheels, and you can adjust it and fit it to be just right where you can get it around basically 3 times, and then that's one, you know, that covers it basically once, and then do it three more times, and then break it off, and you've got a really heavy wheel. Do that for your front, and then in the back, don't do anything, or maybe just do 1 wrap, or 3, you know, or something of that nature to get it where you need it, depending on how your weight's dispersed, right? That is a very cheap and effective way to do it. Now, first argument I know a lot of people are going to say is, well, isn't that tough on your drivetrain? If you build your drivetrain correctly, it's not going to phase it at all. The weak link in my drivetrains for years now has always been bearings. I can destroy bearings. So it's gotten to a point where the gears last. I now AR-44s, we're getting ready to go through all my tests on those. I have yet to test them thoroughly. I've tested them, but I have not tested them thoroughly. So this build I'm doing now, my Cherokee, the one that's behind the camera, why I keep looking back that way, it is going to be the one that really puts it to the test. It's like 15, 16 pounds, I believe, already. And AR-44s, I'm going to really put them to the test. I'm going to build them up how I see fit first, and hope that works. And if anything breaks, I will adjust accordingly. And basically, that's how you got to do it. You got to adapt. So I feel like my weak link is going to be the 3 screws in the ring and pinion gear, or in the ring gear that holds the locker on. Other than that, I don't really see weak links. So we'll see how that goes. But that is how I do it, and Holmes Hobbies allows me to go up to 6S, allows me to have a nice smooth startup. They have a lot of steps, basically, as it's called, in their ESC, so when they start up, it's nice and smooth. They have a huge variety of motors, so I can play around with motors in turns or kV to get the wheel speed that I like, right? And now that I've ran through so many of them, I know what I'm into, and that's why I can recommend to you guys running a BLE Pro ESC, a Puller Pro motor, whether it's a stubby or a 540, the full size 540 can, running those in between a 2200 kV and a 3400 kV, depending on if you like really slow or you like Recon G6 wheel speed type stuff. Me personally, I like 3300 kV is my sweet spot on a 4S. With the 10-to-1 gear reduction unit, ESP anti-spur, and a factory axial transmission. That, to me, that is like the perfect combination, gives me exactly what I enjoy. And it's going through Holmes Hobbies products is what's allowed me to do that. So now, if any of you guys see me at any event, you want to see what I'm talking about, I'll show you. And you can drive my rigs, and you know, as long as you're respectful. And I will try to show you why I do that, you know. And I'm gonna do video now too. I'm gonna follow it up. Basically, now that we're talking about this, you know, I'm gonna follow it up with driving videos to show the difference between running factory rigs, factory gearing, gear reduced setups, ESP anti-spur setups, you know, brushed versus brushless, all these things. I've been thinking about it, and this is gonna be good for this year, for this season. I believe this will be a good way to kick it off, is to go through all of these things, retouch on a lot of stuff that we've already touched about in the past, but really give better examples, go a little bit more in depth, such as how we're doing today. I'll give better examples of why I choose to do it the way I do, and it's not the only way to go. You know, you can just use a factory axial transmission, gear it way low with your spur gear, gear you know, way low, or basically gear it way high with your spur gear, way low with your pinion gear, and get that, you know, low gearing overall that's really effective for a lot of people. It's only once you start adding a lot of weight that you start to see the weakness in you know, having the spur and pinion setup and things of that nature. So that's why I do the ESP anti-spur. That's why I run Holmes Hobbies. That's why I run them in the combinations that I do. And that's why I build my rigs all really heavy. And that's also how I tune them to make up for that. So yeah, I hope that helps a lot of you guys. And in the next episode, I don't know if in the next one, but here coming up in one of these episodes, I'm going to try to do on the next episode, actually. I'm going to start giving examples. I'm going to pull out basically my fully built XJ and a brand new RTR XJ, and I'm going to go over the differences. We're going to talk about the behaviors, things of that nature, and I'm going to show you the difference in KVs and things like that, and as far as wheel speed and controllability and all that. I have video examples and everything, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what you guys are thinking, and that's why I'm doing this video. I really want the feedback from you guys. I want to know how you feel about this and what you would like to see more of here on the Holmes Hobbies Motor Control series as we head into this new season. So I hope that was somewhat informative. You know, basically it's my start into getting into Holmes Hobbies and how it ties into why I build the way that I build. It's a crucial part, I guess. So that being said, I'm gonna get up out of here. I got some more wrenching to go do over here on these builds. So peace of chicken grease, fam. See you guys out on the trails. Yeah.